I've never been the type of guy to act like I'm an expert, because I go through things. I never say the words "you should." If I want to teach somebody, I'm going to just tell them what I've been through. And like on social media, I'm very open and honest about things. Like, you know, a lot of people look at me as like their hero, but I always say, you know, me being perfect never helped anybody.
This is Entrepreneurs the Playbook, where I give you access each week to the world's greatest athletes and executives about their personal and professional playbook and what has made them champions on and off the field. This is the Playbook. All right, this is Dave Meltzer, CEO of Sports One Marketing, here with Entrepreneur the Playbook. And I got the Rocket with me.
What's
Not
up, man?
Roger Clemens, but even better, Charlie Jabaley, what do you call yourself? The CEO? What was it? The child CEO? What was your nickname?
I was CEO Charlie.
CEO Charlie.
Now I'm an athlete, so I'm Charlie Rocket.
Charlie the Rocket.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank
I
you,
love
man.
it. And you're on the cover of Runner's World magazine.
Yeah, a couple months ago. That was a big surprise.
That is an awesome thing. Now, you weren't always a runner or an athlete.
No.
And the reason I wanted to have you on the Playbook, because not everybody starts out as success. I always joke around, you know, people are like, oh, he's an overnight success. I'm like, yeah, 35-year overnight success. If you knew all the pain, trials, and tribulations that I went through, let me know a little bit about your journey. So you grew up and you weren't the most popular kid when you were little?
I wouldn't say that. I love sports.
Mm-hmm.
It was basketball that was my passion. But I was a chubby kid. You know, I mean, some of your audience might be looking like, hold on, he's on the cover of Runner's World. He doesn't look like an athlete. Well, that's actually kind of like my secret weapon. But as a kid, play shirts first skins. If I got picked for shirts, I'd sit out. I would never take off my shirt at the beach. So I kind of buried my dream. And I said, you know what, I need something to be good at. You know, these kids over here, they're good at basketball, or these kids can dance. You know, when you want girls to start liking you a little bit, you got to have something that's your identity. So I said, I'm going to be a businessman. I'm going to put on a suit. I'm going to be CEO Charlie. And I wanted to law of attraction, being a successful businessman into my life. So I figured if I gave myself a name and if I dressed up like it and I made myself accountable to everybody around me, then I would do that. And as time went on, I became successful. I got into the music industry. I grew up in Atlanta, the home of hip hop. And as a young entrepreneur, that's a great business. There's no rules, there's no hierarchy. It's a eat what you kill business. And I created this website. And one day I got a phone call from Interscope Records. And they said, there's this new artist we just signed, and he wants you to go on tour with him, be his cameraman, and do all his marketing and viral production. I was like, man, sign me up. But I had one problem. My mom, she wanted me to go to college, and I went home and I said, Mom, like, I want to go on tour with a rapper. And she was, you know, immediately in her mind, you know, her teenage son, you know, going on tour with a rapper. She's picturing groupies and all this crazy stuff. But I said, Mom, like this.
Gangbanging with the best of them.
That's right. That's right. The artist was actually not a gangbanger. He was a dance artist named Soulja Boy. Went on tour with him and had the #1 songs in the world.
How did you convince your mom? So I have a saying, you know, just because someone loves you doesn't mean they give you good advice. And I had to choose when I got out of law school to go against my mother's advice. How did you were much younger than me, you know, really stand up for yourself and tell your mom you're not going to go to college?
Growing up, I sold vacuum cleaners. My mom sold vacuum cleaners, my dad sold vacuum cleaners, and my grandfather sold vacuum cleaners.
It's a lot of cleaners.
So sales was something we just had to be good at. And I took pride in being able to sell my mom and things. I remember when I was 13, I was in the middle of a lawsuit. And I've never told anybody this. I was in the middle of a lawsuit, local. There's this guy who bought a saxophone from me. And I drew up this contract, gave him payment plans, and he stopped paying me. So in small claims court, I sued him, and he didn't show up to court. So I got a letter in the mail from Judge Hatchett. I'm a kid, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm about to be on TV. We're going to New York, and I had the People's Court, and I had to convince my parents. They're like, this is white trash television. Yeah. I'm like, we're on TV. What are you talking about? I want to go. So I actually convinced them I sold my mom and dad on the idea of letting me go on TV. My dad had to be with me because I was underage. So this actually going on tour with a rapper was a little bit easier because it was entrepreneurial. And I convinced her. She said, you know what, sometimes doors open and you just got to go through them. I went on tour. 6 months later, I mean, I felt like I was on top of the world. Like I saw my career taking off.
Yeah.
And I got fired. And I had to crawl back home to my mom's basement and say, Mom, like, you know, it didn't work out. She said, you got to pay rent though. If you're not going to be in school, you got to pay rent. She was charging me $500 a month. Like she was like serious about it. It was like when I was.
I like your mom, by the way.
Yeah, she's tough. She's a tough cookie, but it's what made me. So then I was like, Ma, okay. And I'm a delusional optimist. Like that's always kind of been.
Optimist, they call him.
Optimist. I like that. And it's like even when everything's sinking, oh, we're good. So I told my mom, I'm gonna manage rappers. She was like, what do you know about managing rappers? I said, I don't know, but if I could sell a vacuum cleaner, I could sell a song to a radio station, you know, or a record label. This is gonna be easy. And I signed this girl group, got them a deal with Interscope Records in 24 hours. Because Soulja Boy didn't like me anymore, but Interscope Records loved me. They knew I knew marketing. So television, 106 in Park, radio, big music videos, and I got a phone call. He said, well, you know, we're a big group now. We can't have an 18-year-old manager. we're firing you. And they left me for Sierra's manager. And I crawled right back to my mom's house. Said, Ma, I got to move back in. This didn't work out. I got fired, but I didn't give up. I had to pick myself up again. I put on my suit again, got my briefcase, and I said, I'm never telling anybody my age ever again, and I'm not going to be distracted. Before, I was getting distracted kind of by the hype and the girls and things like that, being in hip-hop. I said, I'm going to be a straight arrow, and I'm not going to veer off this path. And I signed this guy group, and I would drive from every radio station from Jackson, Mississippi to Washington, D.C., and I would pass out hundreds of thousands of CDs every night outside the club. And I took 3 records, top 20 in the country, independently, had the biggest bidding war going on in all of hip hop. The group's name was Travis Porter, and that got me big enough to where I was able to discover an artist by the name of Titty Boy. Titty Boy is now 2 Chainz. In the South, for everybody listening, in the deep South, Titty Boy is a mama's boy. And that's what his mom actually called him. And I was like, you got to change your name. And changed his name, and we took him to the top, won a Grammy. But when I got to that place, I was very sick. I was over 300 pounds and diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Wow. And
I had pretty much everything, like society.
Why'd you gain all that weight?
Well, food was kind of a trap to me. I was addicted to it. Business had 3 parts that led to food. You know, stress that led to food, deal making, breaking bread, meetings led to food, and success and celebration led to food. So I had to go back to my root cause. When I was a kid, what did I want to be? An athlete. I buried that dream, kind of that life purpose of mine, to do this thing I wasn't exactly designed to do, and that was I was just in the wrong fertile ground. It wasn't where I was supposed to be, and I gained all this weight, diagnosed with a brain tumor, very sick. And when I was at that dark place, I said to myself, this movie was terrible. You ever watched a movie with a bad ending?
Yeah.
I was like, this movie sucked. I said, I want to live a great story. Yes, this business stuff was exciting and all that, but it's not what I was meant to do. And I was reminded of what my 8-year-old dream was. I wanted to be an athlete. So when I went to my business partners and I went to 2 Chainz and I said, I want to retire. I want to walk away, which was a $15 million a year business. They thought I was losing my mind.
Right, thought the brain tumor was kicking in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I said, no, this isn't my practice life. It's my only one. And I walked away. I lost 130 pounds. I did an Ironman this year in New Zealand. I've reversed my brain tumor. I went plant-based vegan. I learned how to use the law of attraction to get what I want. I became a Nike athlete. I biked across America. And the big Colin Kaepernick commercial that came out about a month ago, I was in it, and they actually named that commercial Dream Crazy, which they named after me. I created a fan-made Nike commercial that they said inspired them to take the company in the direction they went to, and I titled that Dream Crazy. So a lot of crazy things happened this year. I believed it was possible, and here we are. I get to do cool interviews with you.
That's awesome. Now, what's next? You have this great inner voice, you have this great intention, and obviously great talent, but what's next?
Man, it's unfolding right now, man. I want to, my thing is I don't like just talking. I want to live and then share the stories. I've never been the type of guy to act like I'm an expert, because I go through things. I never say the words "you should." If I want to teach somebody, I'm going to just tell them what I've been through. And like on social media, I'm very open and honest about things. Like, a lot of people look at me as like their hero. But I always say, me being perfect never helped anybody.
Right.
It's the things, it's like what we were talking about a second ago. The things you went through, the problems you went through are what people are most curious about, because that's really what helps people. Like, I wish there was a podcast called How Many Times I Failed. Like, instead of us getting on here talking about how successful we are, like, people love that. It's
that's
aspirational.
What the playbook's about, right? There's a book by David Corbin called Illumination, and it talks about the power that you give to the challenges, obstacles, and voids that we face by giving energy to illuminating the humanness of all of us. And what motivates people isn't the scarcity of bragging of differences. The ego is based off of a need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be separate. The ego tells us we should be inferior or superior to others. But what actually motivates others is how we're the same. And how we're the same is that we're human and we're run by our egos and we're anxious about time. And so when someone's sick, like has a brain tumor, someone's overweight, and when the majority of people in America are overweight and you're able to single-handedly, self-motivation, overcome that, right? That's inspirational. When so many people go bankrupt, like myself, and I'm able to overcome that and illuminate. When I was your age, I wanted to be rich so bad. Right, I was a sales guy too. I actually sold my mom when I was 13 on buying a moped, which was illegal. Right, so I get that side. But if somebody would have told me that I was going to go bankrupt and had to tell my mom that I was bankrupt, like let alone my family, let alone tell my mom not only was I bankrupt, but the reason I want to be rich was to buy you a house and a car. Now I've lost your house. You have to move out of your own house because I was bankrupt. But even worse, write a book about it, get on stage about it, have millions of people on my TV show, podcast, etc. know that I lost on paper over $100 million. Right? That's what motivates people though. Because guess what? I'm happier today. I lived through it. I've learned a new way to be of service. The laws of attraction. Right. I also, the one thing that you have that's different, because I know you're learning about the laws of attraction. It's something that I look forward to working with you and enlightening you on some of the things that I've learned in the books that I've read. But more importantly, I think, is the combination of the laws of attraction with the law of Goya. Have you heard about the laws of Goya? John Asseroff taught me this. The law of Goya is the law of getting off your ass. Right? And that's a deadly combination. Those who understand the allowance of the universe, but aren't sitting at home high on their mom's couch dreaming about being a manager of some rap group, dreaming about not going to college and being a successful entrepreneur, dreaming about riding across America, being on the front page of Runner's Magazine or in Colin Kaepernick's commercial. Those are the laws of attraction, people. But we live in this universe where you have to get off your ass.
People ask me about that all the time. Like, when you're going through something, how do you actually take that step forward or fight through the pain? And I always tell them I have one little life hack trick. I always say everything's going to be easy, always, because at one point tying your shoe was hard, but now we say it's easy. Or addition, in first grade, that was hard. But now we look at it as easy. So if that's the process of everything, why not just sit at the end and say, oh, no, this is going to be easy? Because when I look at something, when I did the Ironman, for example, I was around some old heads, and I was like, oh, man, I'm going to lose all this weight. I'm going to do an Ironman in 10 months. They said, Charlie, you should have more realistic goals. You're just going to disappoint yourself. I said, it's going to be easy. I said, I looked at the Ironman training schedule. I got rid of all the data of these sprints at this heart rate. I got rid of all that, and I looked at 14 hours a week. I said, that's 2 hours a day. When I was 8 years old, I would bike around the neighborhood for 2 hours a day. That was easy. I would go to the pool and swim with my friends for 2 hours a day. That was easy. Or I would go run around the park for 2 hours a day. So I'm going to do this Ironman. I'm going to train like an 8-year-old, and it's going to be easy. And 10 months later, it was. Bike across America. Oh, it's going to be easy. People are always saying, oh, Charlie, have you thought about what's going to go wrong? No, I don't have time to. I'm too busy thinking about all the great things and how easy it's going to be, because a lot of people, like our minds, are this amazing trickster. It can think about the good things and the bad things. But our hearts, it has intelligence too. And it only knows what's meant for us. So what I learned to do was shut down my mind and just listen to this. There's this amazing short film that Disney did called Inner Workings.
Yep.
And it played before Moana. That changed my life. And there was this guy who went into work, and his brain was doing all the operating of his life, and he ended up in this dead-end job. His heart wanted to do all these amazing things. Heart got tired, stopped trying. Brain then got tired because it was losing. Brain dropped a rope down to his heart, gave his heart a voice again. And I recommend everybody go watch it. It's called Inner Workings. But he allowed the heart to listen again. And that's what inspired me. That Moana and that short film, 2 little animated kids movies, inspired me to leave my job and go on the journey I'm on.
That is awesome. I call the emotional intelligence of the heart, energy, emotion, an unconscious competency. It has 2 sides to it. One is genetic, right? We're born with a DNA that you can activate and deactivate with consistent, persistent behavior, but also it has an energetic, right? The heart is, I always say, only time you know you're dead is when your heart stops. Your brain can stop, you can be alive, right? Only time you're dead is when that heart stops. And it has its own unconscious competency to it. And you got to listen to it. You have to be aware of it, because that's what allows us to be inspired. And if you carry the right energy, you can start, through the laws of attraction, attracting all the things that you put faith in.
There's 2 things that we instinctively do. Have you ever heard somebody say, follow your brain? No, it sounds weird, right? And then if I asked you, point to yourself.
Yeah.
It's always going to be here. You've never seen somebody do this.
Right.
It's always, point to yourself. We're always pointing to the heart. It has this intelligence, this energy that operates, and it knows what's best for us. It can't play tricks on us like this can. That's why we actually know instinctively not to say, follow your mind.
Yep. All right, last question. You come across a 13-year-old, and there's a lot of them out there today. Diminished in capacity, diminished in self-confidence, maybe even suicidal, right? And it pains me. I got 3 teenage daughters. I got an 8-year-old son, and all I want is for kids to be happy, to be able to be like CEO Charlie and be able to say, you know what, this is easy. This is, and not just sit on my butt, but it's easy. It's 2 hours a day. It's easy. It's 4 hours a day. Whatever it is, I'm going to do what it takes, and I'm going to have a good time doing it. What advice would you give that 13-year-old today who's sitting there depressed, like you may have been, overweight or sad or no self-esteem? What would you tell them to get them started on the path to being CEO Charlie?
I had to do this same thing at age 29 that I did at age 8. And it worked twice in my life. When I needed an identity as a kid, I dressed up as CEO Charlie. I gave myself a name, I gave myself an outfit, and I told everybody what I was going to do. It kept me accountable. When you dress up as it, you can't hide from it. When I was 29 years old, 305 pounds, diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I wanted to be an athlete, I did the same thing. I said, my name's Charlie Rocket. I put on my sunglasses, my headband, my colorful, and I would dress up as the Charlie Rocket athlete every single day, and I became that. And I told everybody what I was going to do. So it became my identity. And when you believe in your identity so much that you're willing to dress up as it, people start believing in you, and it propels you forward. 9 months later, after Charlie Rocket said he was going to be an athlete, he ended up on the cover of Runner's World magazine. I was in a Nike commercial. I literally just wanted to attract it so much. So if I was a 13-year-old kid, depressed, there's something you want to do. dip your toe in it and just kind of, no, literally jump all in and say, this is going to be easy. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to tell every single person around me what I'm going to do. They don't believe at the beginning, but they always do when you are consistent. Sometimes it just takes 2 weeks, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. But that's what I would do, dress up as it.
Well, do me one more favor before we end. Can you change your name for me and start dressing up and calling yourself Charlie the President?
2032.
All right, I'll be your campaign manager. This is Dave Meltzer with Charlie the Rocket on Entrepreneur, the Playbook.